I'm just looking for more questions now. I think gardening can be really educational, and when you find out how many different types of plants you can eat and how good they are for you, um, it's just a new way to learn something. This year, I picked dandelions and dried those, used some fresh. I picked redbud flowers off of a redbud tree. And you can use these plants, these flowers, to make muffins. You can use them in cakes. You can use them in breads. And they really have a lot of good vitamins and minerals that maybe you wouldn't get from other things. They also make it pretty. Okay, my next question is, what are some cool, easy indoor plants you recommend? Well, my first one is Theobroma cacao, which is chocolate. And I know some of you may be thinking, oh, that's a rainforest plant. That would have to be terribly difficult to grow. No, it's not. In the rainforest, the plants flood, dry, flood, dry. So you get some good compost and you put the Theobroma plant in a large pot because you don't want to transplant this a lot. You set it in a saucer of water, and I know some of you know saucers of water are bad, but not in this case. And I'll put a few pebbles down in the bottom of the saucer, and then I'll fill the saucer completely up with water. And I let the plant suck up all the water at once. And then I allow the soil in the pot to dry out. Not terribly dry, but sometimes I'll let it pull a little bit away from the edge of the pot, and then I'll flood the plant again. These plants like shade. They do not like sun, so since it's darker in a house, that's really good. And really, other than making sure that they don't dry out too much, they are really easy to grow. You can get them to bloom and produce chocolate pods in a house. Another really cool indoor plant is orchids. Some people think those are hard to grow, but they're not. You don't want to overwater those, and you do want to dump the water out of the saucers below. You want to keep a few pebbles in the bottom for humidity. But basically, when I water my orchids, I use rainwater. I bring it in, I let it heat up to room temperature. I take the orchid and I pour the water in, and then I set it back in its pot or saucer because I want to remove the pot from the saucer when I water. Then I let it drain. And then I go in and remove the pot from the saucer again and pour off any of the excess water except just a little bit in the bottom for humidity. I have an orchid right now in my greenhouse that is getting ready to flower, has a beautiful flower spike on it. So again, don't be afraid. I think philodendrons are hard to grow, and I know a lot of you grow those and you have no problems with them, but to me, those are difficult plants. Okay, where can you buy a chocolate plant? Do you have to start from seeds? A lot of online nurseries, Top Tropicals, Logies, they have actual chocolate plants. Sometimes I will have chocolate plants up for sale on my website, experimentalhomesteader.com, or you can email me and you can ask. You do not have to start them from seeds, but let me say this. If you're going to buy chocolate seeds, buy a chocolate pod and cut it open. Because once the Theobroma seed dries, you have chocolate. There is no way to make that plant or that seed germinate. You have to do those seeds of the chocolate tree fresh. And the only way to really get fresh seed, unless you have a source, is to take them from the pod. And you put them in damp paper towels. On YouTube, there are several videos that show exactly how to germinate these plants, seeds, and how to grow the plants. And like I said, they're really easy. It's really an exotic plant that you can impress people with. Okay, and I'm just looking for more questions. It's kind of noisy out here today. There's a tractor going up the road right now. Okay. I do not believe those instructions for orchids are in the SIG to year-round gardening. But again, you can go to my website, experimentalhomesteader.com, and email me. My email is Sheri Ann Richerson at exoticgardening.com. And I'm always happy to take questions. On my website, exoticgardening.com, I have plant forums where you can go in and you can post your questions. I'm always open to hearing from my fans who I consider friends. Emails are always welcome. Okay. Just looking for questions again. Okay. And for those of you who are homesteaders and trying to be self-sufficient and live off the land, the Complete Idiot's Guide to Year-Round Gardening is an absolute essential plant that you should have. Just it talks about root cellaring, which is something you're going to want to know eventually, even if you can. There are times when root cellars can be very useful, especially if you don't have time at the moment because you're doing 100 other things. And you can put your produce in the root cellar and you can keep it for a little bit and then can it. I really suggest that just everybody goes out and gets a copy of this book. With the local food movement, I think the book is also important. And, everybody wants to grow their own food. And how much more local can you get than your own backyard? Or if you live in an apartment, in a container garden set on your balcony, or even inside of a window with grow lights on. And the Complete Idiot's Guide to Year-Round Gardening does talk about grow lights. Okay, and I have a new question. How does Plant a Row for the Hungry work? Well, Plant a Row for the Hungry is the Garden Writers Association's program that Jeff Lowenfels created when he asked people in Alaska to plant an extra row of beans for their local soup pantry. And what we ask that people do is to plant one extra plant or one extra row of produce in their garden and designate that as something that they are going to donate to their local soup kitchen or food pantry. You can weigh the produce. We ask that you do. We ask that you send in how much you're donated in pounds. The donation is tax deductible, and it's just really a great way to help people in your own local community with food, which is something that we all need.